On today's show, we continue to break down what was an emphatic Ottawa Senators 8-1 victory against the St. Louis Blues.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen today. It's Devin. Devin tells us about going from Sydney, BC to Sydney, Australia on a sailing trip and how he feels about the Ottawa Senators this season.
That and more on today's Locked On Sens.
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. You can find us free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Wednesday, October 30th, and St. Louis left singing the blues. Power or not, the Ottawa Senators put up an 8 spot for the second time this season.
Ross, when we called this game a must-win game, I don't think, and we said they got to win by more than one, it's got to be convincing. I don't think either of us had an 8-1 win in our expectations.
No, but wow, did it ever come in clutch. I think the fans left extremely confident with the structure that they played with. It can be hard when you get an early 3-goal lead, and they were able to continue those back-to-back goals on the power play in the second period. Weren't only huge on the scoreboard, they were also huge in the Ottawa Senators history books because Brady Tkachuk scored both of those goals, and with that, he moves into sole possession of 6th on the all-time Sens goal scoring list, passing Mike Fisher. The first one tied him. The second one gets him past. That's 168 career goals for the captain of your Ottawa Senators, just 12 away from tying Danny Heatley for 5th on the franchise list.
Yeah, it seemed like there was a lot of milestones and great stats to look at from last night's game. Shout out Zach Ostapchuk, first NHL point. And look, I know it's the kind of underlayer of this 8-1 victory, but Linus Ullmark was exactly what we needed him to be. He had a couple big saves, no big rebounds. They get the 1 goal on the power play, that's fine, but it was huge for Sens fans and the team and Linus, I'm sure, for him to have a big game like that.
And the commitment to details and defense. Josh Norris blocking shots in a 7-1 game. You can tell that this team is playing for one another right now. And after what was such a disappointing weekend, Friday in Vegas, Sunday in Colorado, they needed this so badly with 2 days off now before they take on the Rangers at MSG and then back home on a Saturday night against the Seattle Kraken. November is around the corner, but the Ottawa Senators finish October with a 5-4 record, above 500, and the out-of-town scoreboard was juicy last night. Lots of teams in and around Ottawa, the Boston Bruins specifically, get a regulation loss, and that just adds to the importance of gaining points while other teams are losing that given night. So I loved everything I saw about last night's game. Seeing Josh Norris bury the first goal was huge. Giroux extends his point streak to 7 games. He has been a man on an absolute mission since that giveaway in the New Jersey game last, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago now. And it's just, it's the confidence that you can see building within the group. And to add that they got this emphatic win without Shane Pinto, without David Perron, without Artem Zub in the lineup, I think speaks to the amount of stepping up that we've seen. Like, how about Ridley Gregg forcing that turnover on one of the first couple of goals? Like, just seeing sticks in the right spots and defensively being sound. Michael Amadio gets off the zeros for his stat sheet on the year. It just felt like there was a weight lifted off this team. And I think maybe more importantly, the fan base with what they saw on the ice last night once the power was turned back on.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, it's a random Tuesday night game up against a Western team. Maybe you don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's about being able to step up in the opportunities you need to. And like Ross, I think we would have been stoked, and we would have had a very similar mindset, vibe cast. We'd be feeling good today if they had a 4-1 win, right? Like that would have been enough. But this team explodes offensively. And you get some fun stories too, like Adam Gaudette getting double goals again. He had the green light at the end of the game on the power play. Tyler Clevin, they were telling him to shoot any puck he got. They wanted to get him his first NHL goal. So there's fun things like that boost the morale of the guys in the locker room as well.
Well, low key, a nice revenge game for Adam Gaudette, who was in the St. Louis Blues. They kept bringing up on the broadcast that Gaudette led the American Hockey League in goals last year, but they failed to mention it was with the St. Louis Blues affiliate. Maybe they should have given him a look at the National Hockey League level. Every line contributed to that win. It was a dominant performance. When you outshoot a team 35-27, and when it's 3-0 after the first period, it was just awesome to see. Must-win game, and boy, did they come through. It was all in all spectacular. Not a whole lot to nitpick even in this game. You just hope that Clevin got out of it unscathed, because with 2 minutes left, he took a bad hit that you hope that he's already did finish the game, though, and was looking confident with that shot on the late power play that did not convert. But the Senators do go 2 for 3 on the power play. And our friend Mike Kelly with the NHL Network and Sport Logique had a great tweet today about the Ottawa Senators power play. Their top unit with Jake Sanderson, Josh Norris, Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle, and Drake Batherson lead the National Hockey League in goals per 20 minutes. It's the old goals per 60, but with the power play, obviously it's less time on ice. So goals per 20 minutes, they have 6.5. The next best team is 5.8. And I always love this, Pilsy, when you're number one and there's a big gap, but then 2 through 4 are bunched up by 0.1% each. So Ottawa's at 6.5 with their top unit, New Jersey's top unit 5.8, Vegas's top unit 5.7, and Detroit's top unit 5.6. So it is incredible to see the puck movement that they're doing. And Brady Tkachuk says they can still get better because their zone entries have not been as efficient as they would have liked. But my goodness, when Brady's scoring from 30 feet out, you know everything is going your way that night.
And like, you could chalk it up to the St. Louis Blues. Everybody's talking how they spent extra time in Montreal. It's been a long road trip for them, etc. So maybe not set up for success for the Blues, but
some people are saying that that's a punishment, having to stay away from the great city of Ottawa for an extra day or two.
Yeah, exactly. But like, I'm giving full credit to the Ottawa Senators here. Like, they ran an absolute clinic last night. Like, there's just so many examples of the little things that they did right in their own end that led to them producing offense in the other end. And like you mentioned, Ross, there wasn't a bad performance tonight from anyone. And when you're able to get buy-in from the entire team to play a certain way, you're going to be able to hand the St. Louis Blues an 8-1 loss at home. So this was a very, very promising sign that the Ottawa Senators are going to be able to have sustainable success throughout the season.
And I love, too, in the post-game press conference, we heard from a lot of the leaders, I should say. Brady Tkachuk, Tim Stützle both spoke after the game. Claude Giroux did as well, and did Linus Ullmark. Yep. So with all that, they just seemed like they were very focused. So we ride the highs and lows. We're on the roller coaster all season long, but it's great to see that the team, it seems like they've got a steady resting heart rate through it all, which is going to be important as the games become more and more integral throughout the rest of the season. So full marks to the Ottawa Senators, an F- for the St. Louis Blues, especially. I mean, that 8-1 goal was a complete pizza right on the tape of Adam Gaudette's stick at the top of the crease. So it was a night where the Senators played against a team that was playing their worst, but you got to take advantage of that. And the Senators
not apologizing.
Did. No, we won't. Senators are 5-4 heading in to Friday's game in New York City. And we've got a great preview of that game coming up on Friday. And tomorrow on Locked On Senators, Kyle Bukauskas will be by. But Wednesdays mean SensCentral Citizens. And we've got a great one today in Devin, who's on the trip of a lifetime. So let's let him tell you that tale. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You more or less pick on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. You guys heard me right. You can win up to 100 times your cash on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. Best part? You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are about to go off? Which players aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn those sports opinions, those hot takes, into real money all season long on Prize Picks. So, guys, download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Code LOCKEDONNHL, $50 right away when you place your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. Devin is in the middle of the ocean, or he will be in a matter of minutes. Devin, what's up, man? Welcome to Locked On Sens.
Thanks for the warm welcome. Awesome to be on here. I've definitely been a long-time listener, and cool to be, I guess, streaming in from beautiful Berkeley, California.
Yeah, my first question, or more of an ask for an explanation, what journey are you on right now?
So I've embarked on sort of what's meant to be a year-long sailing trip, trying to go from Sydney, British Columbia, across to Sydney, Australia, via all the awesome places along the way. And the idea, too, is to try and get as many friends and family members and people aboard along the way to share the experience. Like Pilsy here, I've been fortunate to have been sailing since a young age. My grandfather was actually a founding member of a little nonprofit sailing club back in Ontario, and that's where it all started. And I don't know, just kind of one day it struck me. It's like, hey, I've got this awesome foundation in sailing I'm so fortunate to have. I should probably try and do something cool with this. And so I'm trying to take that family legacy to another level and share the amazing experiences that can come through it with as many people as I can.
So you're going from Sydney, BC to Sydney, Australia. And then when you get to Sydney, Australia, I can only assume you're going to make your way to Sydney, Nova Scotia after that?
That's chapter 2. Don't spoil this story, man.
Okay, no spoilers, no spoilers. But just to add a little context why this is such an interesting SensCentral Citizen too is, Devin, you and I know each other from my childhood as I was a part of the Lake of Bays Sailing Club. You were an instructor there, and you messaged us one day being like, hey, Pilsy, is that Brandon Piller? Like, did he go to the Lake of Bays Sailing Club? And then we ended up chatting and catching up. So that's where my sailing journey started and ended on Lake of Bays, where yours has gone farther. When did you come up with the idea to go from British Columbia to Australia? Like that's not something that just popped into your head and you whipped up a sailboat and you headed on your way. Like how did that start?
For me, I think, I mean, there's a long form version of this story, but right. I had a guy I played hockey with who kind of got teased about his 5-year plans. And I started thinking about it and I was like, wait, no, like a 5-year plan's actually a pretty cool thing. Like it's big enough you can do something awesome, and small enough
you can have 5 years of unparalleled success.
That's it, exactly. And so yeah, Dorian was in on the concept, but anyways, the first one was to learn to windsurf and windsurf the waves of West Australia, and I ended up moving over there. It went kind of full circle on that one, and lived over there for 3 years. And I've got family in Sydney. It's actually my grandfather's sister, and that branch of the family is over there. And so I spent some time there, and then I moved back to Ottawa, and I obviously I made some good friends in my time over there, and it's like, hey, I'd love to go visit, but it's far away, it's expensive. And with the windsurfing thing too, I'm like, oh, there's all these awesome places in the Pacific that like I'd maybe like to see at some point in my life before they're like potentially underwater, or who knows. But it was kind of like, in my mind, it was like, oh, this could be like a really cool next 5-year plan. Mind you, it's taken me 8 to get the wheels in motion. But to sort of join those 2 chapters, combine friends from both chapters, hopefully getting them aboard to crew, and see some places along the way, bring your accommodations with you, and travel with a low footprint, and just learn. I love learning. And, as I was mentioning to you guys just coming on here, like, I am not a mechanic by trade. I'm not a plumber by trade. I'm not an electrician. And like, anyways, along the way, I've had to dabble in all those things, and it's cool. It's like, it's been a bit of a baptism by fire learning how to do all this stuff, but I've enjoyed it every step of the way.
Oh, it's so fun. I'm excited to follow your journey, and everybody else can as well on Instagram throughout. WhiskeySoul_sailing is where you can find Devin on Instagram. Now, I think this might be beyond a 5-year plan. How long you been an Ottawa Senators fan for?
Well, that's an interesting story, and I might even get roasted by some pals for this one. So, on the surface, I sound like an on-again, off-again sort of bandwagon-y fan, but I am not.
Okay.
And so, interesting. I've got a few props here for today. But
Nice.
I actually have this OG Sens keychain, which I think I got from their inaugural game when they came back. And so I'm going to date myself now. I would have been probably, I don't know, 7 years old, 8 years old or something. And my parents both working for the government. They split in on season's tickets with a number of people at work. And somehow my dad got us out to the first game. And so I vividly remember like stomping down to the Civic Center, and funny seeing that Zamboni action last night. Like, it brought back memories of the Zamboni driver at the Civic Center. The guy used to wear a tuxedo and had like wicked streaming. It was either like curly black hair or wicked mullet or something. But anyways, I was in as a kid and had a Daig jersey, and also had like Daig's card, and was just all hyped up. And the way things started for the Sens those first few seasons, I mean, it took watching the Daig documentary recently to like bring back the memories, but things didn't go so hot for that team. And no, and I didn't understand a lot of the stuff going on behind the scenes for somebody like Daig, but I felt really let down by a lot of stuff. And anyways, there used to be a place in Ottawa, Don Kaharski's Family Fun Center, named after like the referee. And we did a birthday there for me, and they had a rink where you could skate around in socks, sort of. It was a weird surface. And I ended up coming home with a Steve Yzerman card, like mounted in a plaque, and found out he was from, he grew up playing Nepean Raiders hockey. And I started watching a couple Wings games and saw the Russian 5 and was like, oh my God, this is what NHL hockey is meant to look like. And so at that time, the Wings were in the Western Conference. And so I was like, I started watching. They hadn't won a cup yet. They went deep. They lost. They were still coming out of the dead Wings phase. And anyways, it was sort of fun to have a team in each conference, but I was starting to lean into the Wings a lot more. And I am the type too, where when it comes to hanging with friends or whatever, I love being like devil's advocate, or kind of, you need somebody on the other side to have a good debate or spice things up. And I've always hated the Toronto Maple Leafs like any Ottawa Senators fan would and should. And so that's been consistent my whole life. Those Wings teams, I fell in love with watching. I followed Yzerman to the end. And then, of course, you have like Datsuk and Zetterberg come up, and it's like those guys were too compelling not to follow. And it took me eventually moving to Australia and those guys retiring to be like, okay, I'm out of Ontario now. And I think the Wings had shifted into the conference. It was like, now's my time to get back in on the Sens. And the Sens were bad when I moved to Australia. And anyways, I cashed out on I got rid of a couple of my Wings jerseys.
There you go.
And it was right back in. And anyways, I suppose in the years since, you had that like that run that went down when I suppose we still had when we went to the semifinals against Pittsburgh, and that was a hoot, but that was totally out of the blue. But anyways, I've been back in fully since then, and certainly I moved back to Ottawa in 2015, and it was really cool having kind of gotten back into the Sens over the years in Oz from 2013 to 2015 to enjoy that one with friends back home. And so
now,
I love it.
When you were in Australia, did you bump into other Sens fans? Because we actually have a good collection of Aussie Sens fans that follow along with the show and have been SensCentral citizens.
I actually didn't, and I've noticed that on the show, but I was like, I made a lot of new hockey fans over there. Like cool. I was having hockey night in Fremantle. I'd host at my place, usually once the playoffs started. And, sort of in the first round, it might be like one night a week or something. Yeah. But by the time you're getting down to it, in the end, I'd be doing it pretty much every game. And, it sort of would encourage people to like pick a team, at the start of the playoffs, get in. And so anyways, I think there was a new Canadians fan, a Sharks fan, a Bruins fan, and a Rangers fan. And so it's been cool keeping in touch with those guys and having some fun with it. And I couldn't make them all Sens fans because, as I say, I like having people on both sides when it comes to conversations and things like that. Plus, I don't think the Sens were in the playoffs those years. So,
yeah, hard to argue that one, but we appreciate you representing the Ottawa Senators all over the world. Now, on this year-long journey, how are you going to be able to keep up with the Ottawa Senators?
Well, anytime I stop into a port, I'm definitely getting an eSIM card and able to log on. I don't have Starlink on the boat. I'm kind of doing it. I'm not going to say old school, but like maybe 1990s, 2000s style, where I've got kind of a sat phone link. Okay. And so definitely it looks like old fashioned emails, but I'll be asking people back home what's going on, for sure. But that might be the extent of it when I'm out there doing the longer crossings. So like this 9-day crossing down from Sydney, British Columbia to Berkeley, definitely was without true signal for the 9 days. And no, it was a hoot having people like send me the quiz out of the newspaper and things like that, just to keep you having a good time and in touch with the land world while you're out there.
Hope you're enjoying our conversation with Devin. We'll get right back to it. But first, Pilsy's got a word from one of our favorite sponsors.
This episode is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So you got a hunch in the middle of the game, you think your team's got momentum, you can check out the latest stats, view live, play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. Well, let's get into the team this year. I know you've been following along as much as you can while you're still on land here. How have you felt about the team so far?
I like this team. I think as far as like change that you could make within the short period of time that we've had sort of the new team at the helm, as far as management and ownership, I don't think you could ask for anything more. And I think definitely like the recent history of the team has jaded the reactions to a lot of what's gone on. Like, I think this recent sort of near skies falling period of time before last night's awesome win, I don't think we'd be in that situation if not for kind of the bad memories of recent seasons past. Trauma. You look at it, and the team's like approximately 500, has been without their star goalie for periods of time, is without a key player in Artem Zub. And I don't think many of us realized, that Pinto was injured as early as he was. I remember saying to you, I was picking him to have a big game, and it was like, I think that was the game it became clear that something was not right. But no, I'm up on this team. I really like a lot of the moves. I think I can see a few that I'm sure management's thinking of. But and I think too, the other thing with Ullmark is like, yeah, I do think we got our guy. And with like the early concerns to him, I do feel like people need to give a goalie like that a chance to learn the in-game tendencies of the team in front of him for like anticipation and things like that. And it's a young team. Even in a win like we had last night, there's still the odd kind of breakdown or, easy giveaway in a funny place. And I think, him only having played now, 4 games or so for the team. Yeah, I bet you within sort of, after about the first 10 games, he'll start clicking. I think he just needs to learn the team in front of him. And last night, obviously, for confidence and just seeing the way he was moving and catching the puck and whatever else, like the confidence he exuded, like definitely was noticeable and something that you've not felt for this team in a long time.
Yeah, it's nice that he's back. He's healthy. He's looking good. Now, as far as this team's scoring goes, we've seen a lot of huge games from Tim Stützle, Brady Tkachuk. How confident are you that this core group, the guys that are locked up long-term, that are big parts of this franchise, that they can take the next step this season?
I had some apprehension towards it, like maybe last year, but no, I think with the coaching change and like the attitude change of the team, I think we've got it. Like I think the raw talent's there. I think, as you heard in like some of the interviews after last game, like I think this group, they want to change. They want to do whatever it takes to become the players they need to become a winning team. And I don't think like the offensive talent's ever been deniable. And I think the thing that I think we also saw last night that I think's been lacking a bit is having a guy like Gaudette lower in the lineup. Like I think our lower two, like our third and fourth line has not had enough finishing touch on it. And I think you need a guy like that to both push the guys that are at the top of the lineup, where it's like, hey, if I go cold here, we got somebody else knocking on the door. You need that. You need that for depth as well, where he looks like a guy. I mean, he's already playing some power play minutes, but to have that for if a guy goes cold or if there's injuries, whatever. But also, like, I think it's aspirational to think that like a fourth line can just like bang bodies and be effective in today's NHL. Like you need, I think the most effective fourth lines or third lines even, like you need to be doing that in the offensive zone. And you need, it's great to have maybe 2 guys that are more handy in the corners, whatever else, but you want somebody for them to be able to fling it to who can finish. And I think, we're starting to see a guy who, might be stepping into that role. And that's huge because we've not had that.
Now, something I want to pick up on, Devin, is you said, hey, maybe there's a couple things that the management could do. If you were Steve Staios, what would you be looking at to improve the team right now?
I think like it's been talked about on here before, but with Zub out, it's really apparent that I think we're one puck-moving defenseman away from having 3 good pairs. And I could see Clevin, once he gets confident and the game starts to slow down a bit, becoming that kind of a player. Like I think we started to see him in Belleville and whatever starting to, and for Nodak starting to have a bit more of that offensive touch as he got more comfortable. But it just struck me that, like he and JBD as a pairing, they're great. The physicality is great. They can defend, but there needs to be a little bit more flow of the puck on breakouts. It can't always be off the glass and out. Like, and so having sort of those two and Hamonic are sort of in that mold where it's not always there's maybe a better play available, but they're all tending to the safe play. And it can kind of, especially when you've got some talented offensive guys, you start to waste potential and you start to, end up in this mode where it's like, okay, line change, defend, try and get the puck back again. Whereas I think you get one more guy like that, and he doesn't even need to be an all-star. But you can see it with Jensen, like, sort of like a Jensen light would be great. And maybe we've got it in our system somewhere, but just being able to keep the puck flowing up ice and then to be able to like lock teams down in the offensive zone and exhaust them while getting our own changes, I think is the sort of hockey this team needs to start playing.
Well, you kind of hinted at it there. We're looking for a puck-moving defenseman. Maybe he's in our system. We got a pretty good look at Carter Yakimchuk in the preseason. Were you surprised that the Ottawa Senators didn't at least give him 9 games? Do you like the thought process of being like, hey, let's let him develop in the minors more, and then he can be a little bit more ready when we need him even more, maybe at the end of this season or next season? Like, how did you think they handled the Carter Yakimchuk situation?
I actually like the way they handled it. And I think it also speaks to like the quiet confidence of this management group to not cave to all the pressure from outside and do the easy thing, which would have been just to like let him roll because he was cooking. But I think realistically, our farm system's thin enough at the moment that we can't really afford to mess up the good prospects that we have. And I don't think you lose. Like, it's a no-brainer win to have him down, getting touches, send him down with some stuff to work on, send him down with a new confidence, having come up and done it. And also maybe with a bit of a chip on his shoulder to say like, hey, I know I can be up there. I'm going to go down here and show them they were wrong. Like, I think that's what you want. You want to get a guy playing with that attitude and not at all. Like, I do think with our team, part of the problem over the past couple of years is things were all handed to, this group got the keys to the car a little too soon. And so they've been driving around with the key to the city. Probably a little sooner than they'd earned it. And not to say there's anything wrong with any of them, but we kind of lacked like a veteran group that maybe could instill the accountability in the group and things, and the right like lunch pail work ethic that you need every game of the season, and not just sort of get a win and suddenly be like, all right, we're rolling. It's like, no, next game we got to do this again. So yeah. Anyways, I like it, and I think Yakimchuk looks fantastic. And I think the other thing that, kind of dawns on me with our defense is it seems like with the rise of Jake Sanderson and him perhaps turning out to be more effective on the offensive side than maybe even anticipated and starting to step into number 1 PP stuff, I think you need to take Shabbat aside, and if not already, to say like, hey, look, like, we know your whole way through coming up, you're an offensive wizard. You've still got those elements in your game. We want you to use them at the right times. But like, hey, like, there's this guy, Nick Lidstrom, who had like a pretty similar body type as you and skated kind of like you do. And I think you got to get him watching some Lidstrom tapes. And Lidstrom put up big numbers offensively, great puck mover, great skater, whatever. But I think the positional side of the game, like, Shabby's not going to be a physical D-man compared to some. And so, learning all those tricks as far as takeaways, using the stick, using angles. And then the biggest thing that I think the whole team needs to learn from guys and teams like those were sort of like, it's game management, really, but when to take your chances, and like, you got to moderate the way you play to what the score is and what time in the game it is. And it's like, we saw it even last night, like, maybe you're up 3-0 and 3-0 should be plenty of a lead with a guy like Ullmark in goal. And I'm not saying sit back. I'm saying like, hold it down in the offensive zone, but don't make high risk plays on your blue line. And I think we saw a few times last night where, we got away with it, where maybe it was like a behind the back pass or a no looker on the blue line on the power play when you're up 3-0 or 4-0. And it's like, you just don't need to do that. Like, there's times when in a game when it makes sense to do that. But anyways, I think if the team can start to learn those things and players like if Shabbat could shift his game a little more to the defensive side, suddenly I think, we got a group that could really do some damage.
Great answer. Love that, Devin. Final question for me, and lots been made about the top line right wing spot. We saw Ridley Gregg there last night. We've seen Michael Amadio. We've seen Claude Giroux. Who is the ideal line mate for you to play with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk?
Ooh, that's a tough one, and we've only had limited looks. I don't think we've seen anybody looking like they're settling into that spot yet. But I think Ridley Gregg may be the guy, especially once we have Pinto back in the lineup. And so, we're a little more stocked with centers. But I think he skates well enough. He's got the skill, which I think we certainly saw at like World Juniors, and we've seen flashes of it and things. And I think it'll bring out that side of his game more. And I also love the idea of having kind of that, if he can do it without taking bad penalties, like the agitator side, but then having Tkachuk there, sort of as to
clean up the mess.
Like, he'll be the nail, and Tkachuk will be the hammer. But anyways, I like that. I think that's going to be good, and I think they've got a lot of agitation through the lineup. I got to say it, like I was a little apprehensive seeing the team bring on, both Perron and Cousins. And I think if those guys can focus, like the cool thing with both those guys is if you look at those moves from the stuff besides maybe the bad penalties they can take, they're great players and they are what the team needs. Like they're good in the corners, they're good puck retrievers, they're good grinders. But I think, we've seen it a couple times with Cousins already where it's like, maybe that's not the time to take a penalty like that or whatever else. But if we can get all those guys playing, to make little changes to their game to stay away from like stick work and stuff like that and agitate more through perhaps yapping or a hard hit on somebody, I think we're going to be in great shape.
Now, Devin, you're about to be out at sea for a long time, so I'm just going to give you the opportunity to fire off as many Sens takes or predictions, or what do you got cooking while you're going to be not dialed into Sens land, and then by the time you get back to Australia, you're like, oh man, I nailed these predictions. Like, what do you got for us?
Ooh, okay, as long as I get time to tell one Sens related story, because I got one good
also
one.
Great. Yeah.
Should I do that now, or should I
do that now? Do that now and end off with a big prediction.
Okay, I got to think of this prediction. Okay, anyways, I think probably my best Sens story is, so my pal Mike is a diehard Sens fan, and so I can't pretend to be he's been in since the beginning. He's stayed with him the whole way, and this guy, when the Sens went to the Cup Finals, he got me a ticket, and we were going to be going and sitting up in the nosebleeds, and we were psyched on it. We paid whatever for those tickets, and anyways, we go down, we tailgate sort of out in the parking lot. Awesome vibes, and his partner at the time and his mom came along just to catch the vibe in the lot. They weren't going to go to the game, and anyways, we head in for the game to start, and they're kind of leaving disappointed. And we get a text. And it turns out they got tickets off of a scalper or somebody trying to sell them out front of the rink. And it turns out they're in the last row of the 100 level, and they paid what we did for our tickets. I don't know how this worked out. And so anyways, them as well, just being, all too kind. They're like, hey, look, you guys are probably bigger fans than we are. And so, if you want to switch for a period or something,
cool, we're
up for it. So anyways, we head down, and sure enough, as it is at the CTC, the last row of the 100 levels up against the little short wall for the boxes. And with it being the final, we've got the CBC box right behind us with George Strombolopoulos sitting there. He was working for them at the time. NHL box is just across the aisle, and you've got a few of the guys in town for the NHL awards, like Crosby's sitting there, whatever else. That was cool. I earlier started a Gino Reda chant when Crosby walked by outside by the TSN pit. I thought that was hilarious, just to kind of ignore Crosby and get a Gino chant going. But
nice.
And then on the other side, it's the NBC box, and Brett Hull was working for them at the time. And anyways, this is game 3 of the Cup Finals. It's the one game they won. Yep. And tight game against, I believe that was against Anaheim. And yep. Anyways, I had to look this up because I'm not good with remembering game details, but Alfie scores the tying goal. But the goal gets waved off, and the place is obviously going nuts. And Brett Hull, like, I gotta say, when you see this guy in person, he has an aura. He's like a cartoon character or something. Like, there's like this glowing bubble around him. He's sitting there, like, you know, chest out, sitting up, like, pretty much on the wall. And I see him kind of gesturing like the no goal or whatever. And anyways, Strombo, being the good guy that he is, they've got like the TV in the box. He you know, we're started chatting with him, and he's like, you got to come in and, you know, we'll watch the replays and we can see it's a goal or whatever else. So that was super cool. He brought us in. Cool. Anyways, the ref comes back out from the review, and they call it a goal. And anyways, I get the moment where I call up, I'm going, Hully, and Brett Hull looks over, and I just start mocking him with the no goal sign, and just get this big smile and laugh out of him. Anyways, that was great. And then for the team to win, and we hit the OC Transpo straight away, got down to, you know, Sens Mile on Elgin, and seemed to make it down there before most people made it out of their living room celebrating. And just incredible. People going out and going nuts in the streets on every red light. And on the way, and getting into it might have been Bulldog, I don't know, a second level balcony sort of bar, but just like that vibe, we need that again in Ottawa. That was absolutely incredible. And so anyways, a Sens prediction. Let's see here. I don't know if I've got any good ones today. I just think I'm stoked to see Norris rolling again and scoring goals. He hasn't even been using the one-timer yet.
Yeah,
and
seriously.
And so I could see him sort of maybe ending up north of 35. Would be sort of bold. Outside of that, I think maybe, let's think here for a second. I don't have a prediction, but I do want to, you know, give some stick taps to Zach McEwen. I think he's going to be Sens' like most improved player this season. I don't know what he did in the offseason, but that guy is looking like a man on a mission. Like, I heard he put on tons of weight, but he looks faster. And the hustle's noticeable. He's been defensively responsible. He had a hell of a game last night. And so I was maybe not all that psyched on the signing. And suddenly now it's like, this guy is looking like an absolute beast on the fourth line.
We love getting a little love for the fourth liners on this show. Always underappreciated, but we appreciate you for joining us, Devin. This is great. And I'm going to be following along your journey on Instagram, and would recommend everybody does as well. Whiskey Soul _sailing. You spell whiskey with an E on the end. And if you're watching on YouTube, the Senators are back, all the way back, Devin. The old school jersey t-shirt there. It's so good, man. Really appreciate your time, your story, and we're really looking forward to following along your journey with the old school Radek Bonk jersey, number 76. I know our guy Nick Spence is loving that right now. So thanks for taking the time, man. We appreciate you, and let's keep in touch, man, whenever you get some internet or are wanting to pop on, maybe when you get to Australia, and we'll hear all about how it went.
And cheers to you guys. Honestly, this podcast is unbelievable. Like the analysis you guys do, the professionalism, it stands out. Like we're lucky to have more than one Sens podcast, but I mean, this one's found its way to being my daily listen. You guys are unreal. Keep it up. And so funny to be listening for like months before being like, hey, is that Raisin Brandon? Is that the Raisin?
I was wondering, everybody knows me as Pillsy, but at the sailing club, we were big nicknames guys too. And I ended up being called Raisin Bran, or I preferred the alternate nickname of Two Scoops. Everyone would just call me Two Scoops. 2 scoops of raisin in every Raisin Bran. So that's hilarious that you brought that one back.
I had to do it. Anyways, you guys rock. Keep doing it. And yeah, you know what? Let's make this the bold prediction.
Oh,
Playoffs.
Whoa.
There we go.
See you on Sens Mile, Devin. All right, Pillsy. Stick taps to Devin. Make sure you're checking him out. Whiskey Soul Sailing. And really appreciate him taking some time to join us today, as he's a busy man. And we're looking forward to taking a journey with him through social media.
Yeah, and it's a blast from the past for me getting to catch up with Devin, as we referenced in the interview. He was my sailing instructor when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, and he had been watching the show, and one day it just clicked that we knew each other, so we got in touch. We made sure to get the SensCentral Citizen, and we're wishing him all the best on his travels. I mean, sailing across the ocean from BC to Australia is nuts, so we hope he has a safe time and enjoys every little bit along the way.
Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thought for me is we needed a must-win game. We got a must-win game. So, Ross, I know you were a grumpy, prickly guy after Sunday. Let's turn that frown upside down, and things are looking, there you go. Things are looking good heading into November.
In November, it rains. And in the past, it's poured. But we're hoping for the Ottawa Senators that they can flip the script. We've got great previews coming up. I mentioned Kyle Bukauskas from 32 Thoughts. That episode will drop at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So we got a late episode today, but the postcast was awesome. And if you missed that, you can check that out wherever you get podcasts. And then we'll be back on Friday for a game day preview. Sens and Rangers, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. A great test for the Senators coming up. But for today, we say goodbye. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.